Hey there, welcome back to Wendy's Way. Let's see what kind of journey we've got on the horizon today. Alrighty, just gonna make a quick foodie video today about the dessert that I'm making to take for Thanksgiving at my parents' house. I started with a recipe that obviously I pulled off of cooks.com. It's one of my favorite websites, and I'll put up a photo of it so you can stop and write it all down. And basically, I start with a recipe and then I add to it. Because I'm never happy with what somebody else comes up with. I just need to tweak it to my taste. So when you look at the amounts on the written recipe, I looked at how many ingredients I had, and basically I did about 2.5 times what the recipe requested, so it fit really well and nice and deep in my 9x13 cake pan. I had a full package of old hot dog buns, and I let them lay out on the counter and dry out and get good and crusty so they would suck up all the fluid and the flavor that was in the fluid. So in the pan, we have eggs and sugar and milk and vanilla and nutmeg. It asks for bread. I use the hot dog buns. It asks for golden raisins. I did not use golden raisins. Along with increasing the recipe, I put in 4 extremely ripe bananas. And I also put in a cup of dried cranberries or craisins. And the craisins I soaked for probably 20 minutes in butter shots, which technically is butterscotch flavored schnapps. I put in craisins, schnapps and all. You know, the alcohol is going to cook out of it in a 350-degree oven and just leave the butterscotch flavoring. So I'm excited to see what it tastes like. I'm going to put it, first, after I put it all together, I did this last night. I threw it all together and pushed it down so that everything got wet. And then I threw it in the refrigerator. And I let it sit in there all night and soak up. And now I'm preheating my oven to 350 degrees. It says to bake, the small amount for 25 minutes. Since I have increased it 2.5 times, I'm going to bake it for at least 40 minutes and maybe up to an hour. Partly because I increased the size and partly because it is cold from the refrigerator, so it'll take a while for it to heat up. After I get it done, I'll let you know exactly how long I left it in for to make sure that all that liquid has turned into a custard. So there we are. I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to name it yet, but it's bread pudding with bananas and butterscotch cranberries. Ooh la la. Just a quick show. I pulled it out of the oven. And you can see it was even swelling up, up and over the edge. It's starting to shrink down a little bit now, but you know how cakes do. They puff up. And technically, I ended up leaving it in the oven for a total of 60 minutes. So I increased the recipe by 2.5 times. I put extra fruit in the recipe in the form of bananas, which have quite a bit of moisture, and dried cranberries soaked in butterscotch schnapps. And I baked the whole thing. I want to say the package of buns had, it was a double package. Anyway, I'll put a photo of the ingredients sitting on the table before I started. At least the buns and the nanas, so you know how many. But I baked it for an hour, and it's looking outstanding. I can't wait to take it to Mom's and try it after dinner. You'll have a beautiful, glorious day. I'll see if I can get some footage at Mom's when we dig in. All right, again, there's bad lighting. I'm sitting in the living room. It's evening, and I didn't get any shots made of us mowing down on the bread pudding today. Oh my goodness. I need to write it down. I forgot to write it down. Hang on, I'll be right back. Okay, now I got myself pulled together. Kinda. So I wrote it down. I made a big pan full of bread pudding, as you saw. And first what I did was put 1.5 cups of sugar, 6 cups of milk, 6 small eggs, 3/4 teaspoon of nutmeg, and 3 teaspoons of vanilla in a big bowl. And I whisked and I whisked and I whisked until the sugar was all dissolved in the mixture. I measured out 1 cup of craisins, or dried cranberries, into a container, and I poured at least a cup of butter shots over that, which is butterscotch flavored schnapps. It's like liquid butterscotch candy. I poured that over the cranberries, the craisins, and I let that sit. And then I buttered my 9x13 regular cake pan, and I crumbled a double package of hot dog buns. So it was 16 yellow bread hot dog buns. I had laid them out overnight and flipped them, halfway through, so they were dry and crusty. There was a little moisture left on the inside, but I wanted them good and dry so they would suck up all the yummy. And oh shucks, and I almost forgot. Never mind, that comes next. You can tell I'm tired and I'm full. Anyhow, I tore up into small pieces all but about 3 of the hot dog buns into the pan. And then I cut up into bite-sized pieces, slices, 4 extremely ripe bananas on top of the bread. Then I strained the butter shots off the cranberries once they'd sucked up a bunch of it and started to plump up. And I sprinkled the cranberries over top the bread and the bananas. And then I crumbled the rest of the buns over top of the fruit. Then I took the butter shots, dumped it over top the bread and the fruit, and then I re-whisked the big bowl full of milk and eggs and sugar and nutmeg and vanilla, and poured that on top of the whole thing. And I pressed it down a little bit to make sure that everything was in contact with moisture, that all the buns were in contact with moisture. And then I stuck the pan in the refrigerator overnight. So everything was thoroughly soaked. And then this morning, I took the pan out of the fridge, and it only sat long enough for the oven to warm up, so maybe 15 minutes. And 350 degrees, I ended up baking that pan of bread pudding for a full hour. And I took it over this afternoon. We put whipped cream on top of it, and it was probably the best bread pudding I've ever made. Possibly the best I've ever had. Because there were no dry spots, but it wasn't sloppy. Because there were so many eggs in it, it really, you could slice it and use a spatula to pull it out of the pan. It was an extremely moist, but still held together like a custard bread pudding. And it was very butterscotchy and banana flavored. And the cranberries had plumped up, yet they were sweet instead of tart because they'd been soaked in butter shots. And wow, I've written it down now. I'm going to type it out and put it in my recipe book because this I will do again. Maybe next time we'll use like day-old cake donuts or something instead of hot dog buns. I'm thinking that'd be awesome. So I thank you so much for joining me on another journey in food. I pray that the good Lord who blesses me each and every day of my life will bless you as well, today and always. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Amen.